Okay, I hope I'm audible to all my students who are attending this particular lecture for the IIT-JAM economics entrance. In this particular lecture, I'm going to continue with the discussion of the 2025 question paper which has come up for the IIT-JAM economics entrance, which all students can currently see on your screens. If all my students can recall that in the previous lecture, we had started our discussion of this particular question paper. I had also discussed with all students the format of the question paper and the marking scheme in the previous lecture. And we had done the first 5 questions from section A. If I scroll down the question paper, okay, section A contains all multiple choice questions, and we had done the first 5 questions. So starting from question number 1, I had done in-depth discussion till question number 5. So scrolling down the question paper, this is the last question I had solved in the previous lecture. Now, in this particular lecture, I'm going to start with the discussion of MCQs from question number 6. So I hope all students can now see question number 6 on your screens. Let's quickly start from the discussion of this particular problem in this particular lecture. So let's start with the discussion of this practice lecture. So let's look at question number 6. Which one of the following is correct in context of a natural monopoly? Now we all know we have done natural monopoly in our introductory microeconomics course. And remember that unlike other monopolies, what is different about natural monopoly is that it has a very high initial fixed cost, but its variable costs eventually continue to fall over time. So our answer is option number B. If you look at all the options, monopoly arises because of one key input is a precious natural resource. This happens with almost every monopoly. Government does not allow other producers to produce the product, that is franchise or legally created monopolies. Indian Railway is an example of such a monopoly. Okay. The answer is option number B, which truly defines natural monopoly. Total fixed cost is substantially larger than the total variable cost. So our answer is option number. Okay, so I'm repeating it again. Natural monopoly is something which I have covered up in quite depth in my introductory as well as intermediate microeconomics course. Okay, so you have very high initial fixed costs in case of natural monopoly, or I can say high infrastructural costs. But once you enter and once you start producing, your additional costs are very low. Okay, so hoping students have understood this. So my answer is option B. Scrolling down the question paper, I can also make students write a note on natural monopoly just for clarity. So coming to the whiteboard, I am just writing the main heading for completeness. This is IIT-JAM economics entrance. IIT-JAM economics entrance. And we are looking at the 2025 question paper for discussion. Okay, so we are looking at question number 6, although we have found the answer, but I'm just making all students write a note. Recall from my introductory microeconomics course. Access for all these courses is given to students who have subscribed to my complete course for IIT-JAM economics. Recall from my introductory microeconomics course that a natural monopoly is an industry with high barriers to entry, and high initial fixed cost, high initial fixed costs, where the average variable costs, where the average variable costs continues to fall with an increase in output, with an increase in output. I can also say instead of average variable costs, I can also just say average costs, because average costs includes average variable costs as well. Average costs, AC. Okay, for a natural monopoly, if I draw a diagram, we have output, which is Q, and we have average costs. In case of a natural monopoly, you have economies of scale over production. So natural monopolies, I can write natural monopolies exhibit economies of scale in production. We have done the concept of economies of scale in the microeconomics course. They exhibit economies of scale in production. That means as the firm increases its output, its average cost continues to fall. So this is the case of a natural monopoly. Okay, so this was just a revision for all students. Coming back to the question paper, let's look at the next question. If a Japanese citizen owns an apartment in India, then the rental income that she earns from that apartment will be a part of India's GDP, but not part of India's GNP. Both India's GDP and GNP. India's GNP, but not a part of India's GDP, neither GNP nor GDP of India. Now, it's a typical question based on national income accounting. Okay. Any good or service produced within the domestic territory of India is a part of the GDP of India, and any good or service produced by the resident of India is a part of GNP of India. We have done this in the introductory macroeconomics course. Now, if a Japanese citizen owns an apartment in India, then that rental income is earned. The rental income is earned from the apartment within India. So it's a part of GDP of India. But that rental income is earned by a Japanese who is not a resident of India. So it's not a part of GNP of India. So this is our answer. If you look at this particular transaction, you can clearly see that whatever apartment is owned by the Japanese, this apartment lies within the domestic territory of India. So any income earned from this apartment is a part of GDP of India. But this income is not earned by the resident of India, it's earned by a Japanese. So in that particular case, it is not a part of GNP of it. I can come to the whiteboard and I can just write a concept note for all students. Any good or service produced or any income earned within the domestic territory of India, within the domestic territory of India is a part of GDP of India, is a part of GDP of India. Whereas any good or service produced, any good or service produced or any income earned by the residents of India, the residents of India is a part of GNP of India, is a part of GNP of India. Okay, this is a concept note. Where do we learn this? This is covered in my lectures on national income accounting. Within my introductory macroeconomics course. Again, access for these courses is given to all students who have subscribed to my complete lectures for Iit-Jam economics. So hoping students have understood this. Coming back to the question paper, we are done with question number 7, scrolling down to question number 8. Consumer price index differs from GDP deflator since it includes goods and services consumed rather than goods and services produced. So my answer is again option B. I don't need to use the whiteboard for this. We all know consumer price index versus GDP deflator. Consumer price index captures change in the prices at the retail level. When I say retail level, it means at that level where the consumers are going to consume that good. GDP deflator is going to capture the overall change in prices of all goods and services produced in the economy. So the only difference between consumer price index and GDP deflator is that consumer price index will talk about price of those goods and services which are consumed. GDP deflator will talk about price of all those goods and services which have been produced in the economy. So again, students can refer to my lecture notes on national income accounting. I've covered the concepts of consumer price index and GDP deflator in quite depth in my introductory macroeconomics course. Okay, scrolling down to question number 9. Garibi Hatao, removal of poverty, and growth with justice were slogans of fourth 5-year plan. This is a question based on Indian economy. Okay, the objective of the fourth 5-year plan was to remove poverty. Okay, and it was under the leadership of Indira Gandhi, and the slogan was given: Garibi Hatao, remove poverty and growth with justice. Okay, so hoping all students have understood this. So I can quickly come to the whiteboard and I can just make all students write that India's fourth 5-year plan, India's fourth 5-year plan ran from 1969 to 1974 under the leadership of Indira Gandhi. Under the leadership of Indira Gandhi, Garibi Hatao, that means remove poverty, and growth with social justice. Growth with social justice. Remember, all 5-year plans had some objectives. Growth with social justice and Garibi Hatao were the main objectives. Were the main objectives of the fourth 5-year plan under the leadership of Indira Gandhi. So hoping students have understood this. Coming back to the question paper, the last question I intend to discuss, which is not a function of RBI. So if you look at all these options, RBI is a bank of issue. It issues currency. RBI issues currency. We know that. It is a banker to the government. It accepts payments on behalf of the government, and it also is allowed to make payments on behalf of the government. So it's a banker of the government. It's also a controller of credit, controls money supply. We know that the Reserve Bank of India is responsible for monetary policy, controlling the money supply. The only function which is not a function of RBI is lending to business. This is a function of the commercial banks, not RBI. I can write this is a function of commercial banks. This is a function of commercial banks and not RBI. RBI is not allowed to interact with businesses or public. Who interacts with businesses or public? Only the commercial banks. RBI has interaction only with commercial banks and with the government. Okay, so hoping students have understood this. So I stop in this particular lecture. In the next lecture, I'm going to start from section A, problems 11 to 30, which are multiple answer questions, MAQ. Okay, so I stop in this particular lecture. I hope students have enjoyed this lecture. In the next lecture, we look at problems from question 11 to 30. So I hope students have enjoyed this lecture. Any doubts, you can unmute your mic and ask, or you can get in touch with me for doubts on call or WhatsApp, or you can mail me your doubts at divineschoolof economics@gmail.com. This is where I stop in this lecture.